something released so profoundly. It was so painful. And then I just felt a relief. And she said to me, "Are you grieving something?" And I was like, "No, come on. I've just left my corporate career. I'm really excited about this new chapter opening. What on earth could I be grieving?" And she just very, very delicately said, "Could you be grieving your career?"
Hey, I'm Tanya Wilkinson, and this is Death on the Daily, bringing the conversation about death out of the shadows and into the mainstream. Because along with birth and change, if there's one thing that's going to happen to us all, then death is it. And we're going to explore how death actually shows up for us on the daily in a multitude of ways, and how when we allow ourselves to accept and to be with death, how it can teach us a whole heap about how to live this life well.
So this is my first Notes to Self episode of Death on the Daily. Notes to Self is going to be solo reflections for me after my conversations with my guests. And it's also going to be inspired by my journaling practice that for the past few years, I've religiously done every single day. And in these solo reflections, I'm also going to be sharing where my story interconnects with the themes that I was speaking to with my guests, sharing a little bit more about me, my journey in these transitional moments, in grief, etc. Because actually, when we start to speak to death on the daily with each other, we realize that this human experience really, truly is interconnected. So in those moments where we're navigating those, whether it's difficult moments in time, whether it's grief or whatever's coming up in life's many transitions and chapters, we can realize through these conversations that actually our human experiences are interconnected and we are far from alone in these experiences. If only we should allow ourselves to speak to them with others, we might just realize those threads of connection. So today I want to speak to endings in careers. And this is very much inspired by my conversation with Priya Joi, where we both spoke to the endings of our careers. For Priya, it was a career in the UN. And for me, it was my career in Formula One. And for both of us, it was really, really rooted into that deep understanding of that which is most important to us in our lives, where we want to invest our passion, our purpose, our time, our space, as well as how we can cultivate a lifestyle that really, truly, deeply and completely is aligned to us. So let me talk a little bit about my journey. So I left Formula One in 2021, and this was the tail end of a 14-year corporate career that spanned some of the most awesome names within music and sports entertainment, including starting my career at Columbia Records, moving to Geffen Records. Then I had a stint in advertising, working with massive brands and very much in that entertainment space before I went into Formula One to be one of their heads of marketing. Now, on paper, it sounds amazing. And don't get me wrong, there's so much of me that is so grateful to so many of those experiences. And there was so much joy as well and connection with incredible humans in the whole of my career journey. So let me rewind us to just before COVID. So my partner and I, we just moved to a place called Epping Forest. It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the world. It's an ancient forest. And how we found it was I love nature. Absolutely love it. I bring it into all of my work now and my coaching practice and everything. And we were at the time living in a tiny little flat in Brixton. And I just Googled what's the nearest forest to London. And it turned out that was Epping Forest. So this is why we ended up where we are. Now, lockdown then hit a few months later. And actually we had the absolute gift that I'm so grateful for of exploring the forest as well as the woodlands and the nature reserves near us during that lockdown time. Now, prior to that, I'd been working in Formula One. I'd been traveling loads to races. I'd been working all hours. You know, it was as fast paced as the sport is on track. And in truth as well, I was really unboundaried because actually in the whole of my career, I'd never been taught or had modeled to me just how we could set healthy boundaries, how we could say, actually, do you know what? What I'm giving in these hours is enough. So actually through the whole of my career, I was always dancing that dance with burnout that at certain points had impacted on my health. Now we come sort of onto the other side of lockdown, and there was also some personal things that happened for me. So I had a miscarriage in 2021, and that grief really, literally in that instant, changed my whole outlook on life. And it's amazing how when we go through losses, how it really crystallizes, and for me made for the first time in the whole of my career crystal clear of, am I actually truly, deeply and completely in my heart, in my values, in my purpose, living in my alignment? And I realized in my grief, and as I navigated all of that, the answer was no. Now, the second thing was I then was tested for hypothyroid, and I found out that I was hypothyroid, which is an autoimmune condition. Fast forward through different sort of medical tests on hormones and all of that stuff, and actually I could see literally in like black and white the impact of me being completely unboundaried in my career, but also of the business travel and of the lifestyle on my body. That actually, as much as my mind was like the Energizer bunny, I had that battery in and I thought I could keep going, my body was really, really depleted. And then the third thing was also looking forwards and thinking, actually, you know, in this chapter, in bringing a family into the world, who do I want to be as a mum? How do I want to move through this world? And I realized that actually I wanted above all else to put my family first. And at the time as well, during lockdown in 2020, we were the cliches where we adopted some rescue dogs. And it was even in seeing them, Manumaya and Purumana, our two beautiful rescues, even in spending time with them, I realized I don't want to miss out on them. I don't want to be on the road. I just want to be here. I want to be in the forest with my family. So that really changed everything for me. And it was when I was stood out in nature, I was stood by a lake, and I just got, it was like a punch in my gut, an intuitive knowing that said, you are done. That's it. You are handing your notice in on your career. And I was like, huh? What? So I remember talking to some friends about it at the time, and they were like, oh, hang on a minute, you know, don't be so hasty. And I said to them, I know this is it. I just don't know what's on the other side. Now I threw it out there to the universe, and I said, okay, I'm open, I'm listening. And I really tuned into my intuition. And actually, fast forward 24 hours, and I was stood by another lake near where we live. And the idea downloaded into my mind that it's about mindset. How can I help others with their mindset? Be it in the sustainability and DEI space that I was loving working on within Formula One, or just more generally in helping other people to just really root into their purpose and how they can make their greatest and most aligned impact in the world. So that was that. So I handed my notice in. And then while I was working my notice, I also started training to become a coach. Now, on the other side of that, I left Formula One and I very purposefully took 3 months off because I knew as well I needed to heal my body. Now, in that time, there was a whole cocktail of emotions, but I can now see that actually I was really numbing myself to those emotions. I wasn't allowing myself to truly, deeply and completely feel them. And it was when my friend Eva, who is an incredible, incredible acupuncturist and massage therapist, she was doing a treatment and she put the needles into my lung points and I screamed. Something released so profoundly. It was so painful. And then I just felt a relief. And she said to me, are you grieving something? And I was like, no, come on. I've just left my corporate career. I'm really excited about this new chapter opening. What on earth could I be grieving? And she just very, very delicately said, could you be grieving your career? And I realized in that moment, oh my God, I am. And I've been really numbing out to it. And in doing so, I've also been disconnecting myself from that chapter ending, that career chapter ending, not just in Formula One, but the whole of my career in the entertainment world. And I realized and started to unpick these complicated layers of grief, including holding space for myself as that inner teenager, those dreams of working in entertainment and me just clinging on and not wanting, that part of me not wanting to let that go. as well as observing where I was angry and frustrated at myself, at how I gave my career everything, how I gave my career the very best of me, how I didn't set boundaries that honored me, that honored my family, and feeling really frustrated at all that which I'd missed. Which includes, if you listen to the Katie Gray episode, time with my beloveds, including my grandparents, who by that point, my two grandparents on my dad's side were both in a care home. And my nan wasn't speaking, she'd lost that within her dementia journey. And actually, I realized just how much I'd lost there. So there was a whole cocktail of emotions going on, things that I needed to really hold space for. Now, as I reflect back onto my other career transitions, so for example, in leaving the music industry, when I moved from Geffen Records into the advertising world, and I realized that actually when my careers end, there's a weird disconnection that I've had every single time. It's almost, I feel, if I take myself back into my memories of, the leaving speeches and the leaving drinks and all of that, I realized that actually I was really numb and disconnected in those moments. Now, my hypothesis on this is that actually where I was disconnected is because there probably was, whether it's, it may or may not have been grief, but definitely sadness at that ending. Definitely, obviously excitement and joy, what's to come, but also definitely a lot of things that really hit deep in that which I was leaving behind, including those versions of myself. So in these notes to self, I want to end quite practically on just some considerations that might support you as you're navigating any of these endings in your careers. So firstly, as your career chapters end, tune inwards and notice how you're really feeling. Allow for any of that cocktail of emotions to come up. Because even within that new chapter and ones where you go, oh my goodness, I'm so excited about where I'm going, there can be sadness. And sometimes, as I found, there can be grief. And whatever's coming up is totally okay and it's totally understandable. So be present to it all. And in doing so, know that you are bringing greater meaning and intention to this ending. Plus, when you allow yourself to feel it all, it really allows yourself to feel the joys, the hope, and that excitement. It really amps up all of the emotions in feeling the emotions that, might feel difficult. That then just supercharges all of the brighter emotions and that happiness and that joy. Secondly, if you are feeling out of alignment and frustrated in your current career, I feel you because I have been there. And in truth, that was underlying a lot of my last few years in my corporate career. My advice, and this is inspired by the journeys that I walk with many, many incredible clients, is just to connect into any joys, any breadcrumbs of purpose, anything that just lights you up, even in really subtle ways each day as you move through it. And what I always invite my clients to do when they have no idea where they want to go, but they know that where they're at is not right for them, is just connect into these. It's like following the little breadcrumbs up the path. You're following those breadcrumbs of joy until you unearth your life purpose. Journal on them. Really get to know yourself. Get to know who you are, what you stand for, what lights you up. Where does your creativity want to flow? Where do you feel called to? And within that as well, tune into your heart. I call our hearts our inner compass that guide us. And actually for me, it was my heart, that intuitive center, that was really, really pulling me to step out of Formula One and to really understand actually, okay, I'm not going to make a knee-jerk reaction. I'm not going to rush into this. I'm going to really, really understand who I am, what I stand for, and then flow into that. And I created my business from that space and I allowed myself that space. And so as Priya shared at the end of our conversation, actually what that can be is just taking little steps. We don't need to make a speed judgment. It doesn't need to be, okay, overnight, I'm going to have all of the answers. Take those little steps, be considered. And whenever you're ready, and when you also have all of those conditions as well to support you as you take that leap, then take that leap. And finally, I want to share a note for anyone. If you are listening to this and you're processing the shock of a redundancy or a career chapter ending that wasn't your choice, I just want to say, please surround yourself with space, with love, with self-care in this moment. Now, change is one of life's constants. And actually, when we try to control, when we, really sort of bottle up or suppress in these moments, what we end up doing is resisting and swimming against those tides of life. In those stormy times, please try to allow yourself to feel. And I always like to think in storms of sort of looking at trees blowing in a storm. And actually, what nature teaches us is the winds of the storm actually make trees more resilient. Winds cause trees to develop stress wood, which strengthens them for the future. So in stormy times, in our career, how can you tune in and trust that in your center, in your trunk, you've got a strong and resilient core that's beating in your heart? And knowing that when the winds blow our branches, we know this will pass. And even though this experience might feel raw, it might feel painful in this moment, try to connect into that core. Tune in, because actually in these moments, and I found this in my grief, in these moments, it's when we really, really understand what is most important to us. Suddenly it's like that lightning bolt striking, and we can see in light, in the darkness, that which is most important to us, that where we want to focus our energy. And also, perhaps you might find those ideas start to flow through of where you really, truly, deeply and completely want to go in this life. I have worked with many people, and I also know many, many people who actually have come through these really difficult times with so much greater aligned careers. And it's truly, truly wonderful to witness. So if this is you, I'm sending you lots and lots of love. Just keep connecting into that core. And finally, my note to self. So I'm going to end each of these episodes with a short note to self. And this is something that I've just journaled on. And sometimes it will be a note to myself in the present. But this one actually is a note to my impatient me soon after I left corporate. None of your life has been wasted. Those chapters where you felt out of alignment have also contributed to who you are today, to your essence and your impact, with so many lessons to help your forwards path. So no going backwards in regret, only forwards in gratitude for who you were and intentionality in who you are becoming. So make a commitment to keep tuning in, to keep taking those small steps into your purpose every single day. And remembering, this life is a marathon and not a sprint. So those are some words that I am feeling and that I wish I could have spoken to myself at that point. But I'm speaking it to that layer within me right now. And wherever you are in your journey, give yourself grace, give yourself compassion and love, and believe in yourself. Believe in where you can go in this life, knowing that with every career chapter that ends, another one that opens up. And when we move through that ending with intentionality, that's when that next chapter can come in much deeper purpose and alignment. So wherever you are, I am sending you lots and lots of love. Take care of yourself.
All of my gratitude to you for joining me for another Dead Conversation. Death on the Daily is edited by David Strutt. The music is Set Free by Katie Gray. And I am Tanya Wilkinson. And if you enjoyed this episode, I would be over the moon if you can rate, review, and subscribe. It really, really helps me to get the word out there. And if you want to say hi or to hear more about my work as a coach and death doula, including how I support my clients to navigate their death on the daily, then all of the ways that you can connect with me are in the show notes. I'll be back soon with some more Dead Conversations. And in the meantime, take good care of yourself and others.
There's a cold fire, there's a crossfire, and there's something inside. and we'll never, never make it, and we'll never, never break it.